Hi, this is a quick tutorial for Biology 104 lab students to calculate mean and standard deviation and then represent those statistics in a graphical form. So from last week we took measurements on Volvox and Paramecium and copepod with the micrometers from your scopes, and these are the values that you recorded on the lab data sheet, and they're all in microns. So what we would like to do is create first a table showing the mean and the standard error for each of these specimens. So let's just make labels for a table. First we're going to calculate the mean, and we're going to calculate the standard deviation. I'm just going to abbreviate it here. And then we're going to calculate it for Volvox and Paramecium and copepods. Okay, and I'm just going to lengthen these. Okay, and let's just select all the fields that we're going to fill in with data and put a box around it. See this tab here? If we select it, we can put a all borders box around this. That will make our table look a little bit nicer. Okay, so how do we calculate, first of all, the mean? It's fairly easy in Excel. We could do it longhand by adding up all the values here and dividing it by the number of values. For instance, add up all these values and then divide it by 13. That's how many values are here. Or we could just use a function that is inherently provided by Excel. And we access that function by starting with an equal sign. And for mean, the function is called average, because average is the mean is basically an average. Add a open parentheses, and then left-clicking, select all the data for Volvox. Okay, click and drag to select all the data. And you can see here that the names of those cells have shown up in the open parentheses section, and then we can hit a close parentheses. So what this says is we want the average of cells A2 through A14. And you can see our data runs from A2 to A14. Okay, all we have to do at this point is hit enter. Okay, and there we have 333 microns is the average or mean value for Volvox. I believe it was diameter. So for standard deviation, it's the same. We just start with an equal sign, and the function for standard deviation is STDEV. And then we want the one that says .s, because we measured a sample of the total number of Volvox that was on our slide, for instance, or in the beaker, or in the pond. And so we want to use the calculation that takes that into account. We're measuring standard deviation for a sample, not for the entire population. So select that, and then again we just left click and drag to select all the data and hit enter. All right, and we can do that for Paramecium as well. And for copepod. Whoops, what did I do wrong? I forgot the parentheses. There we go. Okay. So now we have the mean and standard deviation for Volvox, Paramecium, and copepod. Now we would like to graph that data. So I'm just giving myself some space. And I'm going to select an empty cell. Make sure you select an empty cell, or this next part won't work. Go up to Insert. And what you want to do is insert a column graph. Okay. Let's select the one that says Clustered Column. So here we have an empty graph. Okay. Now we want to populate this graph with the mean of the Volvox, Paramecium, and copepod. So what we do is we select the mean for each of these, all three of them, and right-click to copy, or use Control-C to copy. And then put your cursor in the chart area and select Paste. And here you see we have 3 bars which represent a mean. So this bar is called Series 1 and its value is 333. And as you might guess, that is the mean for Volvox. So this blue column represents Volvox. This red one represents the mean of Paramecium, and the green one represents the mean for copepod. But they're not labeled properly. We want this to say Volvox, Paramecium, and copepod. So let's select the bar that represents Volvox. Okay? And then right-click, and you get this menu. And you can go to Select Data. Okay? And here it brings up this Select Data Source menu. And you can see the 3 series listed here. Well, we can select Series 1 and edit it. And when we edit it, there's a series name that we can change. And the way that we can change this name is we can change it by just typing in the name that we want, or the value that we want, Volvox, and hitting OK. Hit OK. And now you can see that blue represents Volvox. Now there's another way of doing this. Let's right-click on the Paramecium one and go to Select Data again. Okay, select Series 2. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. And hit Edit. Okay, we've selected Series 2, which is this red one, which represents Paramecium. Let's hit Edit. And instead of typing in Paramecium here, we're going to click on this small box. And then we're going to click on the name Paramecium. Okay, and then click on this small box again. And hit OK. And hit OK. And you can see now it says Paramecium. All right. Maybe I shouldn't have these all in capital letters. Okay. And you see that the change from capital letters to small letters followed, because this name is coming from information that comes from this cell. We selected this cell to represent this name. Let's do this again for copepod. Right click, select data. Okay, Series 3 at this point. Edit, and then the series name. Again, let's just select the cell that has the name we want. It's much easier than typing it again. And then OK your way out of it. And there we go. We have blue represents Volvox, red represents Paramecium, and green represents copepod. So now this one is unneeded here. So just select it, click it once, and hit delete on your keyboard. Let's get rid of that. And let's replace that with a chart title. So go up to Chart Tools and Layout, and we'll fill in an axis title. The horizontal axis title, we'll select Title below Axis. Okay? And let's just call this Pond Water Organisms. All right. We can do the same for the x-axis, which represents length in microns. Okay, so go back up to Axis Titles, the primary vertical axis. Let's select Rotated. And name it Length. And in parentheses, we'll state what the units of length is. It's microns. Okay. We also need a chart title. So let's go up to Chart Title, and let's select Above Chart. Okay. And let's give our chart a title. Let's call it Length of, dyslexic, length of pond water organisms. Yeah, that's good enough. Length of pond water organisms. Okay. There's one last thing we want to do to this graph. We want to add the standard deviation. And we do this by adding bars above and below the mean, because what standard deviation represents is the variance about this mean, or the width of the variation about the mean. And it's a positive and negative value. So select the bar that represents the mean for Volvox, and under Chart Tools Layout, go to Error Bars. Okay, we want to add error bars. And scroll down to More Error Bar Options and click. And then we want error bars to go above and below the mean. So make sure that both is selected, and then go down and select Custom. And then we want to specify the value. Okay. Again, we get these boxes. We get one for the positive error value. That'll be the portion that's above the bar. And the negative error value. That'll be the portion that's below the bar. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's click this box so that we can select which cell the standard deviation is located in. It's located there. Click the return box. And then let's do the same for the negative error value. Click a box and select it. Hit OK. And then let's close this and see what happened. There's our error bar. Okay? It's 63 microns above the mean and 63 microns below the mean being 333. And you can do the same thing for paramecium and copepod. I'll do paramecium for you. Go up to error bars. Make sure it's on both. We want to put a custom value. Specify that value. For the positive, it's 19. And for the negative, it's 19. Hit OK. Close. OK, and there's our error bar. Copepod. Okay, now we successfully created descriptive statistics for Volvox, paramecium, and copepod measurements that we made in class last week. These descriptive statistics are the mean and the standard deviation. We have them in table format here, and we also have them in graphical format here.